The October 18, 2018 meeting of the Woodbridge Township Board of Education will please come to order. Roll call, Mr. Secretary.
Ms. Anderson?
Here.
Ms. Bourdain?
Here.
Mr. Della Pietro?
Here.
Mr. Harris?
Here.
Mr. Molnar?
Here.
Mr. Sedana?
Here.
Mr. Velez? Here. Mr. Treebwasser?
Here. Please make a note that Mr. Tamburello said he would be a few minutes late due to a personal matter. Mr. Secretary, as required by the Sunshine Law, will you please read the notice of meetings?
Thank you, Mr. President. The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this Act, the Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted as follows. January 10th, 2018, August 24, 2018, emailed to the Home News Tribune, the Star Ledger, and the Municipal Clerk's Office, posted in the Avenel Middle School and the Board of Education Administration Building.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Mr. Della Pietro, please read the closed session statement.
In compliance with the Sunshine Law, the Board must go into closed session in order to discuss subjects exempted from the public portion of our meeting. The discussions to be held in closed session will be regarding personnel matters. Any information regarding the closed session discussion will be released to the public when the reasons for discussing these matters in closed session no longer exist.
I have a motion by Mr. Della Pietro. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Molnar. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. We'll return after closed session.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight it's my pleasure to introduce 4 of the many outstanding students who participate in our gifted and talented music program. First, Anaya, Vinath, and Tejwasi will perform Perfect by Ed Sheeran. Anina is an 8th grade student at Island Middle School and is a member of the choir and select choir. She plays flute in the school band and is also in the wind ensemble. Anina also plays piano and has been studying Indian classical music since the age of 6 and has performed in various events. Tejwasi is in 8th grade at Island Middle School and has been studying Indian classical Carnatic singing for 4 years. She's a member of the choir and the select choir. She also plays flute in the band. Other than school activities, she has also performed in events at Indian temples. Tejwasi has also been pursuing her interest in Indian classical dance for the past 7 years. Next, Gabriela Herrera will perform a selection she has chosen. Gabriela is a 7th grade student at Avenel Middle School. She is an aspiring artist and producer. She took piano lessons at age 3.5 for 7 years, and now she is a self-taught singer, composer, and performer. Gabriela envisions herself sharing her talents with the world someday. Lastly, Abigail Haskell will play the Star-Spangled Banner on the flute. Abigail is an 8th grade student at Colonia Middle School. She has been in music G&T since grade 5. Abigail has performed in school concerts and at the Veterans Home for the Boy Scouts and for family and friends. Abigail is currently in the concert band and wind ensemble at Colonia Middle School for the marching band at Colonia High School.
Just
don't desert me, don't turn back. Now that we're here, people always say life is full of choices. No one ever mentions fear or how the world can seem so vast. On a journey to the past. Somewhere down this road, I know someone's waiting. Years of dreams just can't be wrong. Arms will open wide, I'll be safe and wanted. Finally home where I belong. Well, starting now, I'm learning fast on this journey to the past. Home, love, family. There was once a time I must have had them too. Home, love, family. I will never be complete until I find you. One step at a time, one hope then another. Who knows where this road may go? Back to who I was, on to find my future. Things my heart still needs to know. Yes, let this be a sign. Let this road be mine. Let it lead me to my past and bring me home at
Please rise for a salute to the flag and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do I have a motion to reconvene?
So motion?
I have a motion by Mr. Molnar. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Anderson. Roll call, Mr. Secretary.
Ms. Anderson?
Here.
Ms. Bourdain?
Here.
Mr. Delapietro?
Here.
Mr. Harris?
Here.
Mr. Molnar,
Here.
Mr. Sedana?
Here.
Mr. Tamburello?
Here.
Mr. Velez? Here. Mr. Treebwasser?
Here, will someone make a motion to approve the minutes of the previous meetings?
So motion.
I have a motion by Mr. Harris. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Sedana. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. Mr. Secretary, please state for the record any notice of bids received by the board.
Thank you, Mr. President. There were none at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Mr. Secretary, please state for the record any communication or reports received by the board.
Again, there were none at this time as well.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Dr. Zaga, please state for the record the superintendent report for the month of September 2018.
Mr. President, I have the following reports to present to the board. The student registers and the security and fire drill reports, suspension reports for elementary and secondary schools, bomb threat reports, and the reports of the attendance officers.
Thank you, Dr. Zaga. Dr. Zaga, will you please introduce our student representative, Sharmi Shah?
Sharmi Shah is a member of Colonia High School. She's a member of the Math, Science, Spanish, History, and National Honor Societies. She placed 5th overall at the Junior Science and Humanities Symposium. She's a United States Air Force Award at the New Jersey Regional Science Fair. She also won the Naval Science Award at the New Jersey Regional Science Fair. She was first place in physics at the New Jersey Regional Science Fair. She was selected to attend the International Science and Engineering Fair, where she placed second in Acoustical Society of America Award, first place National Security Agency Research Directorate Award in the Physical Sciences. She was invited to present research at the National Security Agency during the summer. She was first place in the Department of the Air Force Award in Physics and Astronomy, and fourth place in Physics and Astronomy category at the convention, at the symposium. She was selected for a summer research internship at Stevens Institute of Technology. Her first choice is to attend MIT and to study mechanical engineering and computer science. She graduated from the Indian classical dance after 7 years. Sharmi?
So, starting with Avenel Street School 4 and 5, the PTO sponsored a superhero fun run, raising $2,250 for school improvements. At Lindcrest School number 22, there was a school spirit day that was held on September 21st. A walkathon raising over $800 was held to support Julie Hildbrand, first grade student at Lindcrest who is winning her battle at cancer. The Grand Falloons delivered their entertaining Garbage What a Waste presentation. Students participated in a week of respect. Detectives Schlossberg and Sino delivered an anti-bullying presentation to our students on October 2nd. An assembly led by the fire marshal was held during the Fire Prevention Week. The book club met to discuss the book The Chocolate Touch. Students are participating in School Violence Awareness Week as well. At Woodbine Avenue School number 23, they are participating in Jeans for Troops. They did a change challenge for grade levels to compete. They're implementing the 3 R's school-wide: be responsible, be respectful, and be ready. They're also implementing the 5 B's during lunchtime: be here, be ready, be safe, be respectful, and be responsible. At Avenel Middle School, this month we celebrate the Week of Respect, Fire Prevention, and School Violence Awareness. The school received recognition from the Broadcom Masters National Middle School Science Competition. The technology classes are now covering STEM and coding. Fall baseball and softball teams are demonstrating hard work and outstanding sportsmanship. The United States veterans will be honored by hosting a breakfast and interactive program with our students. And the new attendance program and committee stress the importance of student attendance with the hashtag AMS Attend Today, Achieve Tomorrow. Our student council is coordinating our school-wide Spirit Week activities, including visits from our school mascot, Wally the Wildcat, and our Spirit Assembly. Assembly program topics include respect for the environment, digital responsibility, student safety, and making responsible choices. Our PTO is coordinating the Halloween dance and fall walkathon. From Colonia High School was selected for a Jets player, Jonathan Harrison, to have lunch with a student, Jason Mahan. 6 additional students were nominated by teachers as Jets upstanders and received 3 tickets each and a parking pass. The girls' soccer team raised over $2,900 to support families impacted by pediatric cancer, and the girls volleyball team also are 2018 Red Division champions. This year's National Honor Society has selected the following officers. President is Adara Temesler, Vice President is Gianna Fantel, the Secretary is Brian Barros, and Treasurer is Arjun Venkatesan. The National Honor Society has started conducting lunch tutoring for students, and the Spanish Honor Society sent donations to St. Peter's Hospital in New Brunswick and collected food for We Drive in Woodbridge. We Feed Drive in Woodbridge. Fusion has collected gently used or new winter coats and books, and the French Honor Society created Google Slides presentations about French language and culture. Colonia High School has embraced the one-to-one technology initiative with great success. The school's newspaper, The Declaration, has received its first award of the school year. The recipient was Frankie Brock, who received a Best of SNO publication. Colonia High School is proud to announce that three senior students achieved commended status from last year's high scores in the PSAT National Merit Scholarship Competition. The CHS PTO will be hosting a community event of an indoor circus at Colonia High School on Sunday, November 18th in our gymnasium. Colonia High School is now the host site for a new Young Marines cadet program. This after-school and weekend program is only the second Young Marines program in the state of New Jersey. Colonia High School is now preparing for Smart Lunch trials in November. Smart Lunches will allow the staff and administration to reduce the daily lunches offered at CHS from 3 a day to 2 a day, as well as offer student opportunities such as getting tutoring help, joining clubs and activities, and making up tests during the school day, but not by interrupting any daily instructional time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Shaw. You are certainly welcome to stay if you'd like.
I would love to say, but I have a lot of homework. So.
You are a very smart young lady. Thank you very much. You have a
Thank you.
very impressive resume.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Dr. Zager, will you please present the vandalism and violence report?
Mr. President, tonight I'm presenting the Vandalism and Violence Report and a 2-year summary that is required to be reported to the State Department of Education. There's a comparison of the 16-17 to 17-18 incidents by category. I'd like to point out that the HIB, the harassment, intimidation, and bullying, went from 111 in 2016-17 to 215 since 17 and 18. That includes all of the reported cases that were investigated, not the ones that were confirmed HIBs. I'd also like to highlight the substance abuse category that almost doubled from last year to this year, or from 16-17 to 17 and 18. All the more reason for our random drug and alcohol testing program that we'll be initiating this winter in the high schools.
Thank you, Dr. Zager. Dr. Zager, do you have any recommendations this evening?
Mr. President, I have 17 items to present to the board.
Do I have a motion on the superintendent's agenda?
So motioned.
I have a motion by Ms. Anderson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Tamburello. Are there any comments or questions from the board? Any comments or questions from the public? Roll call, Mr. Secretary.
Ms. Anderson?
Yes.
Ms. Bourdain?
Yes.
Mr. Delapietro?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Molnar?
Yes.
Mr. Sedana?
Yes.
Mr. Tamburello?
Yes.
Mr. Velez?
Yes.
Mr. Triebwasser?
Yes. Policy and Planning, Mr. Harris.
Thank you, Mr. Treebwasser. The Policy and Planning Committee, on recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, presents the following 7 items. I move for the adoption of the foregoing.
I have a motion by Mr. Harris. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Tamburello. Any comments or questions from the board? Any comments or questions from the public?
David Pinkowitz, Island. Question about the new admission policy that's being proposed, item number 7, I think it is. The only change in that policy is for kindergarten. It says, as a requirement to be admitted to kindergarten, the child must be toilet trained. I guess the concern I have is that that language is fairly all-encompassing for any kindergarten applicant. And I know the state has, in the recent past, sued even private child care centers for discrimination when a child has, for medical reasons, otherwise, they have to make accommodations for toilet training. I guess my concern is this language is a little too inclusive and doesn't make, I don't know at what level the state would accept it, but it doesn't seem like this would be acceptable to turn someone away who might have either physical or psychological reasons they couldn't use the toilet. So I would ask the board to look into that. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Pinkowitz. Just so you know, Mr. Pinkowitz, this is for gen ed issues. If a child has an IEP, then those types of things would be addressed. Most likely, if a child, by the time they're in kindergarten, has those types of issues, then they would be addressed through our special services. Roll call, Mr. Secretary.
Ms. Anderson?
Yes.
Ms. Bourdain?
Yes.
Mr. Delapietro?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Molnar,
Yes.
Mr. Sedana?
Yes.
Mr. Tamburello?
Yes.
Mr. Velez?
Yes.
Mr. Treebwasser?
Yes. Curriculum agenda, Mr. Harris.
Thank you, Mr. Treebwasser. The curriculum agenda, the curriculum committee on recommendation of the superintendent of schools and assistant superintendent for curriculum and instruction present the following 12 items. I move the adoption of the foregoing.
I have a motion by Mr. Harris. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Sedana. Are there any comments or questions from the board? Any comments or questions from the public? Roll call, Mr. Secretary.
Ms. Anderson?
Yes.
Ms. Bourdain?
Yes.
Mr. Delapietro?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Molnar,
Yes.
Mr. Sedana?
Yes.
Mr. Tamburello?
Yes.
Mr. Velez? Yes. Mr. Treebwasser?
Yes. Finance and insurance agenda. Mr. Tamburello, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Finance and Insurance Committee, on recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools and the Business Administrator Board Secretary, presents the following 16 items. This evening, I move for the adoption of the foregoing 16 items.
I have a motion by Mr. Tamburello. Do I have a second?
Second?
Second by Ms. Anderson. Are there any comments or questions from the board? Any comments or questions from the public? Roll call, Mr. Secretary.
Ms. Anderson?
Yes.
Ms. Bourdain?
Yes.
Mr. Delapietro?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Molnar,
Yes.
Mr. Sedana?
Yes.
Mr. Tamburello?
Yes.
Mr. Velez? Yes. Mr. Treebwasser?
Yes. Sir, security and safety, school safety agenda. Mr. Delapietro.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Security and School Safety Committee, on recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, presents the following one item. I move for the adoption of the foregoing.
I have a motion by Mr. Delapietro. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Tamburello. Any comments or questions from the board? Any comments or questions from the public? Roll call, Mr. Secretary.
Ms. Anderson?
Yes.
Ms. Bourdain?
Yes.
Mr. Delapietro?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Molnar,
Yes.
Mr. Sedana?
Yes.
Mr. Tamburello?
Yes.
Mr. Velez? Yes. Mr. Treebwasser?
Yes. Technology agenda. Mr. Sedana.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Technology Committee, on recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools and the Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction, presents the following 4 items. I move for the adoption of the foregoing.
I have a motion by Mr. Sedana. Do I have a second?
Second?
Second by Ms. Anderson. Any comments or questions from the board? Any comments or questions from the public? Roll call, Mr. Secretary.
Ms. Anderson?
Yes.
Ms. Bourdain?
Yes.
Mr. Delapietro?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Molnar,
Yes.
Mr. Sedana?
Yes.
Mr. Tamburello?
Yes.
Mr. Velez? Yes. Mr. Treebwasser?
Yes. Athletics and extracurricular agenda. Ms. Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Athletics and Extracurricular Committee, on the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools and the Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction, presents the following one item. I move for the adoption of the foregoing.
I have a motion by Ms. Anderson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Harris. Any comments or questions from the board?
Mr. President?
Yes, sir, Mr.
I
Harris.
did want to just remind the administration, I think we spoke about this back in June or July. Perhaps you have an update, we could talk offline, about working on some best practices regarding the elementary school track meet. I know we had a couple of hiccups last year that we were seeking to be rectified. If we could just catch up perhaps tomorrow or next week about that?
Absolutely, Mr.
Thank you.
Harris. We can refer that to the Athletics Committee and have them draft up a plan.
Sure, yes. Well, it should have been in the works, but it's a check-in now. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Any comments or questions from the public? Roll call, Mr. Secretary.
Ms. Anderson?
Yes.
Ms. Bourdain?
Yes.
Mr. Delapietro?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Molnar,
Yes.
Mr. Sedana?
Yes.
Mr. Tamburello?
Yes.
Mr. Velez? Yes. Mr. Treebwasser?
Yes. Buildings and grounds agenda, Mr. Molnar.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Buildings and Grounds Committee, on the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools and the Business Administrator Board Secretary, presents the following. Tonight, I'll be moving one item.
I have a motion by Mr. Molnar. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Della Pietro. Any comments or questions from the board? Any comments or questions from the public? Roll call, Mr. Secretary.
Ms. Anderson?
Yes.
Ms. Bourdain?
Yes.
Mr. Della Pietro?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Molnar,
Yes.
Mr. Sedana?
Yes.
Mr. Tamburello?
Yes.
Mr. Velez?
Yes.
Mr. Treebwasser?
Yes. Transportation agenda, Mr. Velez.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Transportation Committee, on the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools and the Business Administrator/Board Secretary, present the following 9 items. I move for the adoption of the foregoing.
I have a motion by Mr. Velez. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Tamburello. Any comments or questions from the board? Any comments or questions from the public? Roll call, Mr. Secretary.
Ms. Anderson?
Yes.
Ms. Bourdain?
Yes.
Mr. Della Pietro?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Molnar,
Yes.
Mr. Sedana?
Yes.
Mr. Tamburello?
Yes.
Mr. Velez?
Yes.
Mr. Treebwasser?
Yes. Personnel agenda, Mr. Molnar.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Personnel Committee, on the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools and the Assistant Superintendent for Human Resources, presents the following. Tonight, I'll be moving 39 items.
I have a motion by Mr. Molnar. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Anderson. Any comments or questions from the board? Any comments or questions from the public? Roll call, Mr. Secretary.
Ms. Anderson?
Yes.
Ms. Bourdain?
Yes.
Mr. Della Pietro?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Molnar,
Yes.
Mr. Sedana?
Yes.
Mr. Tamburello?
Yes.
Mr. Velez?
Yes.
Mr. Treebwasser?
Yes.
Mr. President?
I hate to interrupt, you're on a great roll here. Mr. Bader had a presentation to make on the dual enrollment courses as part of the curriculum agenda.
absolutely right, Mr.
I
Harris.
apologize for not noting that earlier.
My mistake. Thank you. Mr. Bader, would you be so kind?
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to first introduce what I will be presenting this evening. Something we're very proud of is a expanding dual enrollment program at our 3 high schools. Over the past 5 years, students have been taking an increasing amount of dual enrollment courses. Again, I would like to thank the high school administrators for their willingness to encourage students. I would like to thank the teachers, most of whom have master's degrees in their subject matter, and also many of whom went for additional training at the university. And again, the students and parents for taking rigorous coursework. When a student completes a dual enrollment course, they get high school credits, and they also get an opportunity to earn credit from the university. They, in essence, take the same course that would be taken at a greatly reduced cost during their high school years. And this is also part of a handout for the people in the audience this evening. We begin with Colonia High School, who went from 2014-2015, they had 47 total students participating in dual enrollment. They have increased every year and currently have 149 students participating in the programs, which include several NJIT courses, Middlesex County College Pre-Calc Honors, a new one, Rutgers Expository Writing, and Kane University Tomorrow's Teachers. Next, we look at John F. Kennedy High School. And again, they in 2014-15 had 159 students. They now have 352 students participating in dual enrollment. And their courses include SUPA, several SUPA courses, and that's Syracuse University Project Advance is a relationship we have with Syracuse University, one of the biggest practitioners of dual enrollment throughout the country. And these courses include American History 1 and 2, Human Behavior, Financial Accounting, Academic Writing, Also, Berkeley College of Business Organizational Management course, and several Middlesex County College calculus courses. Lastly, we look at Woodbridge High School. In 2014-2015, 79 students participated in dual enrollment, and this current year we have 154 students participating. And their courses include, again, several Syracuse University Project Advanced courses, including creative nonfiction writing, forensic science, financial accounting, academic writing, college learning strategies, presentational speaking, and 2 calculus courses from Middlesex County College. As a district, the cumulative numbers from 2014-2015, we had 285 students participating, and now throughout the district, we have 655 students participating in dual enrollment. Also noteworthy is the fact that while many more students are participating in dual enrollment, you'll see from this line graph that the red line representing AP tests taken and the blue line representing dual enrollment, both are continuing to rise. So we do have more students, I think, who are looking for rigor. It is not taking away from the AP program, and we're very proud of the teachers, students, and the administration at our high schools. Thank you. I also have one additional presentation this evening, and that is the Dynamic Learning Maps presentation, which is an alternate assessment given to special ed students in our district who qualify in grades 3 through 11. And a synopsis of this, we had 70 students take the tests from grade 3 to grade 11, and 18 scores were earned at target or advanced. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bader.
Mr. Bader? President Triebwasser, Mr. Bader, for parents out in the audience or those watching on TV or who will catch this or hear about this program, what is the best way for a parent to talk to their student and or guidance counselor about enrolling in dual enrollment? What is your, I hate to catch you off guard, what is your best advice on enrolling in dual enrollment courses?
Mr. Harris, I would say that when the student has a meeting for developing their schedule for the next school year, they should definitely speak to their counselor about this. And any parent could call at any time. We're happy to talk to them in our counseling departments, and also the open houses are a great opportunity to ask questions about these types of courses. But really encouraging more students to participate, and we hope the numbers continue to rise.
Thank you, Mr. Bader.
Are there any other comments or questions?
To the board president?
Yes, sir, Mr. Tamburello.
Yeah, 2 things I want to emphasize, and Mr. Bader touched on them. Certainly the dual enrollment compared to the AP. Love seeing those equally, or they correlate, that they're both going up, so it proves or shows we don't encourage one over the other. And kids are taking advantage of both, and it's great that we offer both, and the graph is really encouraging. And then furthermore, it does address something I know we were hearing, or I was hearing when we started, or when I started on the board, about, hey, challenge my kid. Give us some courses. I mean, we got a great curriculum, a great cross-section of offerings. And this certainly addresses the parents and those maybe A-type personalities where they tell us or they've told us, hey, we want to get challenged. And we're certainly offering a great cross-section of courses. I've attended one, and Mr. Harris attended one. Board members have gone to these AP and dual enrollment classes. And I said it in one of our committee meetings, it's almost like we're an annex of Syracuse University at this point. We're like a satellite campus. We have so many classes from Syracuse, which is the SUPA that you see on your charts. So I like seeing this, and we're definitely going to continue to grow this and support this program. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Tamburello. Is there any other comments or questions? Okay. Mr. Bush, do you have any recommendations this evening?
None at this time.
Okay. Is there any old business that should come to the attention of the board? Any new business?
Mr. President?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mulmar.
Just want to recognize one group in our community. The other day, I was visiting School 26. I had dropped off some flyers, and I noticed out in the front of the school there was like a little birdhouse, like on a post. So I went over and I looked at it, and it's something called littlefreelibrary.org. And I want to give a shout out to the Girl Scout Troop 80105. They put it together. It's a really, really cool thing. I guess the concept of it is you could go take a book out, put a book back in. It's encouraging reading, you know, for kids. Just you're walking by the school when you're going into school to, you know, to visit it. And I just encourage everybody to visit littlefreelibrary.org, learn more about it, and just a big thank you to Troop 80105. It was really cool to see that.
Thank you, Mr. Mulmar. Any other comments?
Mr. President?
Mr. Harris.
Yes. I'd like to give notice to the parents and students of a great annual event that we host here in the district annually. It's the Middlesex County Vocational Technical Forum. It is organized by Isla Middle School's Principal Kelly Salento and her guidance department. It's an opportunity for students and parents of middle school students to learn about Middlesex County's 5 vocational technical high schools. It's really an opportunity for students and parents to get to know the guidance counselors and fellow students of those 5 high schools and learn about the additional offerings that the county provides free of charge to our Woodbridge Township students as well as students in other school districts. Our offerings in Woodbridge Township, our 3 high schools, is largely a college preparatory type setting for students. On the converse, Middlesex Vocational Technical Schools offer a college preparatory course load as well as an opportunity to go into the traditional trades. 3 of those 5 schools are your traditional vocational technical schools that offer courses such as, or career majors as it's known today, in automotive technology, agri-science technology, HVACR technology, that's heating, ventilation, air conditioning, refrigeration technology, machine tool technology, performing arts school, manufacturing technology, carpentry, electrical technology. Great career opportunities for students who may or may not have an interest in attending college. There is a middle skills gap in the United States of America where the traditional trade jobs are no longer being filled. I suspect largely because we push more and more of our students towards college and not to the traditional trades. So once again, this is a great opportunity to learn about those options. You, of course, will be districted to attend one of our 3 college preparatory high schools if you're graduating one of our middle schools, but these schools are available to you should you choose to attend. There is an application process to get into those 5 schools. So check it out just to learn about those 5 schools on Tuesday, October the 30th at 6:30 p.m. at Island Middle School. I believe that's 1 Panther Way in Island. That program typically goes from 6:30 to 7:30. Set up like a college fair where you move about a large classroom or auditorium and meet the representatives from those 5 schools. So once again, I want to thank Ms. Salento, the guidance department, and the administration for the support on this annually. Dr. Zega, can I count on this, a flyer being added to the district website as well as a school messenger alert to or email? The best way to communicate to all middle school parents would be ideal and fantastic. So,
Yes, sir.
thank you, sir. I appreciate it. I'll yield the rest of the evening to the community, Mr. Treebwasser.
Thank you very much, Mr. Harris. Before we get started and open up the public session, I just wanted to give the public an update on what's been going on with School 18 and some of the processes that we're working on putting in place for the district as a whole. To strike on School 18 first, we did put up our security fence along the perimeter of the building, along the back of it, where the new section is. We have pulled back the wooded area to allow more airflow and light to get in there to hopefully dry up the moisture issues that have been existing. We've also recognized that we have the ability with one of our current employees to send them out for training so that we'll be able to do CO2, mold, and humidity testing on a much quicker and more cost-effective basis. Along with that, we've developed some SOP for environmental concerns that any school will be able to bring forth so that we can address every school as diligently and as effectively as we have School 18. We also have done some things as far as drainage goes, and we are also addressing the issue with the storage room and the all-purpose room in the back right corner. We have we have a building engineer company coming in to take a look at the flooring to see if that there is a foundational issue in that back corner, and those things will be addressed. We also recognize that flu season is coming upon us. We have also implemented a new process with our janitorial services that will make available the proper and appropriate cleaning supplies for all our classrooms, and that there will be a accountability checklist for the teachers so that if their classrooms are not being cleaned up to their standard, that they will be able to identify that, pass it off to the principal so that we can get the information back to our janitorial services so that they can be effectively addressed. Thank you. In keeping with our past practice, I will open this portion of the meeting for statements from the public. If you wish to say something, please come to the microphone. Provide your name and address for the record, and please limit your comments to no more than 5 minutes in accordance with Regulation 1100D.
Hello, I'm Amber Jarrett. I live at 85 Freeman Street in Woodbridge. I am here tonight as a concerned parent of a 7th grader at Woodbridge Middle School. I want to preface my comments by saying I did vote in favor for this renovation project in addition to the construction of Ross Street and the implementation of full-day kindergarten. However, as a fellow educator, the ends do not justify the means, and the benefits of this project should not be at the cost of the current students. We are very early in the phases of construction. On September 21st, we were informed as parents at 11 o'clock in the morning that the following week would be half days of school. Obviously, this is a burden and concern for working parents in addition to the loss of instructional time in a school that is not performing well on state assessments. It was not until 4 o'clock that same day that the district offered aftercare. It could not be argued that that is equivalent to instructional time and was just a means to accommodate and appease working parents. Initially, the message was that no lunch would be served. As I'm sure you're aware, almost 40% of our students receive free and reduced lunch. It was not until that Sunday at 6:30 that these parents were informed that their students would actually be fed. It does not impact me necessarily, but the distress that that caused to families should be noted. We are now up to 12 half days with the scheduled and the unscheduled of the 180 days of school. And like I said, we're very early in the process of construction. So I guess I'm here to voice concerns about the present health and safety issues in the building, specifically very limited bathroom use for students. I've been told there's one per gender. There are almost 400 students in the building. I've also heard of classes being relocated due to dust. There have been some evacuations because of gas smells, et cetera. And also, I would like to question what plans the district has for the future. Construction is unpredictable. I assume as the summer progresses, we are going to be doing more interior work. If that is not done in time, what contingency plans do you have in place to keep parents more adequately informed and prepared, and to be more proactive? All of the steps that were taken in September were a reaction. You closed the schools for half days, and then you backtracked and tried to appease parents after they were upset and were calling you. So what are you going to do to be more proactive and to minimize the disruption to our students' instructional time?
Yes, we meet regularly with the architects and with the contractors, and as I'm sure you know, the problem that we encountered the other week was when the demo came right up to the existing to the existing classrooms, and that's where the building was vibrating and there was concern. So it was a difficult call, but we thought it was best to not have the students around when they completed the rest of the excavation. Moving forward, we've been reassured that the most difficult part of the excavation is behind them, so there shouldn't be any other issues. I'm sorry? If there are, Right now, we've been assured by the contractor that there shouldn't be anything like that. I mean, that was the hard part. The rest of it will be construction of the addition, which will it'll be away from the school. Things like gas leaks, that was something that you're talking about the day that the students weren't allowed into the school in the morning.
And the day prior, when I went to pick my son up for an appointment, they were all evacuated and the fire department was there.
That's.
And I know things happen, I know teachers, but there are a lot of things happening.
It's difficult and it's tough to predict what could happen, but like I said, they have.
My question is, what are we going to do if these things continue to happen, other than minimizing instructional time? Our kids are being taken out of the building, and they're given half days. What are you going to do if there are issues? Is there a plan to relocate? Is there a plan to make up instructional time? I mean, there has to be something more than leaving the building.
No, there's no place, there's no plan to relocate, there's nowhere to go. The only thing we could possibly do is split sessions, which we don't want to do. So we're going to work with the contractor, we're going to work with the architects, and make sure that no instructional time is lost. In the meeting today, I made that very emphatic, that we will not adjust the schedule again for them. Okay, so like I said, it's tough to predict with renovations. I lived through one at School 25 several years ago, and there are things that come up that are unforeseen. But the safety of the students and the staff comes first, and we will make sure that there's no impact on instructional time.
A couple of other things, ma'am. We are looking into the possibility of, as you asked about the summer, if it's not complete, we are looking at the possibility of relocating the students for the beginning of the following year into sections of Woodbridge High School in the D wing that we believe would have enough room to accommodate a portion of them, and also in another school. So we are looking into that. We are addressing it, but we can't commit to it because we don't know what the actual numbers are at this point. The other thing is the reason that we called for the half days, and the board was very conflicted on this, was because it was more due to the fact that we were concerned about the students' anxiety because of the noise and the vibration of the building. At no time, according to our engineering experts, was there any danger or any concern for safety. But the anxiety aspect of it, for us at least, was more of a concern than anything else. We certainly didn't want to subject our students to anything that would make them uncomfortable or anxious about being in their classroom. As far as the cleaning goes, we've discussed with our provider, and they are providing additional labor to help us to address that as more dust is created at different phases of the operation. Mr. Maris, welcome back. It's good to see you again.
Yeah, it's always nice to be here. Thank you. Tom Maris, Woodbridge, New Jersey. And as you know, I'm running for the board seat again this year, so I'd hate to break with tradition. That said, matter of a couple of concerns. One, when you make the presentations, I'm glad the mics are working tonight and we don't have the air conditioning, because it's a lot easier to hear everybody, either from this side or that side. But again, on the slide presentations, if you're sitting back there, and I just had cataract surgery, so my eyes are 20/20, you cannot read those signs from back there. If anybody else can, I'd like to borrow their magnifying glasses, because I asked several people, you cannot read them. So you might want to consider maybe expanding that screen so it does get a little bigger, so back there it can see. Moving right along, you said something earlier about sending somebody for course training. I want to bring up probably was an old wound, and that was when Mr. Terpanic was here. He was buildings and grounds supervisor. As we went through, we found out he had never gotten the certifications he was supposed to have within almost the 2 years that he held that position before he was terminated or left for whatever reasons. But again, I don't know if you have a new building and grounds individual that is the supervisor, and whether that person has completed the necessary state-required training. And I would say that goes to a lot of these problems that you're discussing right now, such as School 18, where you have problems with asbestos and you have problems with mold and mildew. And just to enlighten the public, and by the way, I'm so glad people come out tonight, because most of the times you come here and the place is empty. It's the board and nobody else. And you have to remember, this is your school system. If you care about it, please come to these meetings. Address these people. Let them know. Let your fellow people know what's going on. It's very important, and it'll work wonders, trust me. Point is that I have submitted Oprah requests to the board, as you may well know, for past inspection reports on all schools in the district. I've also asked for all the contracts that you have let to any contractor regarding inspection for mold, mildew, rodent droppings, which I know is a problem, certainly in Woodbridge High School. I've also been in touch with the New Jersey Health Department and DEP. And I just want to let the good people here and whoever may be hearing my voice know that the DEP can move forward, but there are only 4 inspectors in the entire state, so they are more than heavily burdened. You might want to talk to your representatives about getting more help for the key things that take care of our health and safety in this state. They would be more than willing if I asked them to come down and do a complete inspection. As they have informed me, it would be lengthy, very time-consuming. They would go through every school if I so requested. What I said to them, and I'm making this a public note, if anybody wants to get in touch with me, I'm real easy to find. I'm on Facebook. I'll be glad to help you and respond to you. That said, the reason I'm saying that is, if you know of a particular school or an area within a school, please identify it, because if these inspectors come, it saves a lot of time and energy. They do not inspect for mold per se. If they come in and see it, they'll do something about it. They will not open walls and look for it. That is up to the school district to either self-inspect or to hire professionals, and that's why I'm requesting the information under Oprah, what inspections they've done, and I'll be requesting too, if you do have a new grounds and maintenance, I want to see his ID, and I'll submit an Oprah for that tomorrow. I want to see if he has the certifications that Mr. Trepanick did not have, and did not have right up to the time of his end of employment with the board. The other thing I would point out, once upon a time, these were open public meetings. We didn't have 5-minute cutoffs, and they were nice enough to extend a little bit more time to this lady, which I commend you for doing that, because she had some very valid things to say. But the other thing is, you'll notice the camera never moves. It's now trained on the board. So it's no longer, the public can be heard, they can't be seen. And there's a reason for that, because it has a tremendous impact when somebody watching this on TV or on the internet can both see and hear the person. They allow themselves to be seen and heard. They won't allow me or you come up here and that camera will not turn. You might want to ask them why they're doing that. I think it's self-serving, and it certainly denies us the right to be seen and heard when we come up here. Thank you very much.
Mr. Maris, I appreciate you bringing up the part about the presentation being too small. That's why there's handouts over there, so if you couldn't see them, you could just pick them up and read them.
Just want to clarify, if I can, Mr. President.
John Bertaric, Woodbridge.
Excuse me, Mr. Bertaric, one second, please. I want to clarify for Ms. Rooney. I understand you keep the time at 5 minutes. Is that correct? Okay, and so the time for 5 minutes was exercised both for the first speaker and the second. Is that right? We have to apply that, board. I just want to share this with you. As your attorney, it's my job to do this. We have to apply that universally. So, for example, the first speaker spoke for less than 5 minutes, and the second speaker spoke for just about 5 minutes. So we have to either let everyone go past 5 minutes if we go past 5 minutes, or we let no one go past 5 minutes. But we got to be consistent about this, and this is why you have board policies, to be consistent. We can't pick and choose, okay? And I think the board knows that, but I'm just reiterating it for the public and for you as a board, so you all understand. I don't think the board has done anything tonight inappropriate with respect to giving one person time more than another.
Thank you. John Bertaric, Woodbridge, 580 Amboy Avenue, Woodbridge. You know, we don't come often over. I don't come often over here. But again, the last couple of years, I know you did have a quite a bit of a change in your building grounds people, from board education down to the people that worked for years. This is not just a recent problem. I believe that problem was for many, many, many years. It was ignored. I mean, every time we come here, you talk about your beautiful football fields, your beautiful soccer fields, your beautiful all these things. But nobody's talking about interior of the buildings. I know we did put the solar panels on roofs, new roofs on the building. That's the time they should be discovered what was wrong with this building. But it wasn't attention to until that thing actually came to the building. This is no excuse. We got a beautiful fields, we got beautiful this and that, but inside with the kids, it's the health problem. We ignored it. And I don't want nobody to excuse us, this is fault, somebody else's fault. What are we going to do about it? So those people don't have to worry about children that they send to school, infants, I'm talking about kindergarten, on and on and on. We messed up. It's a shame what happened over here. And this is going for a long time. The school should not be open if it's not clean, so to speak, and everything else. You open those schools, and that school is not just the one school. I'm sure you got other schools, same problems. For years, I heard even teachers themselves, they were schooling Fords. There was a problem with the smell in it. They had to close the classrooms, middle school. So this is nothing new, but please, you screwed up because you people are incompetent. Buildings and grounds. Show me one person that I know and you know that was qualified to know buildings and grounds. From school board, and I'm talking about the people that work those things. Who is in charge of the buildings and grounds that does all those cleanups, that does the repairs? Do you have all you people that check this thing, or do the people, outside people, that would examine Board of Health or anybody else? It's all our people, right? So they're not going to give you negative things. When you find it's too late, it's dangerous. It's really dangerous. So we talk about a school 11. You're building a new school, fine. How are you going to tear the old school down? What pollution is going to do, not just to the kids in school, what's going to do to the neighborhood? Those things take into consideration. This is issue of health. And this is very important, not just to our schools, that other times, other cities, there's some problems. But again, please, pay attention for the health. Never mind those beautiful football fields and beautiful turfs that you spend most of the money. So money should not be the problem. So what are you going to do about it from now on?
Are you done with your comment, Mr. Vitale?
Yeah, my problem is, what are you going to do? Send people in charge that they can clean those schools, they examine those schools. You had a whole summer to check the interior of the school, anything from heating, plumbing, asbestos, with no code. You had 2 months to do it. And you start finding out the stuff when the school is open. And most ridiculous thing that I heard tonight was, you got to cut the trees to let the moisture come to the school. I think the other way around. The trees are the most important thing in our environment to filter the air. It's embarrassing, you know, and those people are worried about here because it is concerned. It's a worldwide problem, is pollution, and this is pollution. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vitale.
Good evening, respected ladies and gentlemen. And I'm Pranali Jan, and this is Lois Cho, and we are here with our fellow classmates on behalf of our AP Government class at JFK High School. And we wanted to express a few concerns we have about the new Chromebook initiative at the school. We are beyond grateful to have the privilege and the ability to access technology when we need it, but we feel that certain restrictions put forth by the administration limit our educational experience and invade our privacy at certain levels.
So some of the concerns we have involve some of the necessary apps are disabled from our Chromebooks, including Google Keep, Google Hangouts, the calculator. Certain sites are blocked at random times. We even had a student get called down to the principal's office just for logging onto a dictionary site. Chromebooks for seniors are extremely slow and broken just for the senior class. They can't keep up with classwork, and I've seen students not even be able to turn on their Chromebooks and keep up with the coursework that we are doing because of that. We would also like to clarify the parameters of GoGuardian. What can they see and hear, and when can they see that? We have students that are so concerned about their privacy that they have resorted to covering their cameras and microphones with tape. Our question is, what is the district able to see, and how can the board assure our rights to privacy?
Also, the Google Drive offline mode is disabled, which prevents students from working on assignments outside of school, and the educational videos like Crash Course or even Khan Academy are blocked at certain times.
So we just want to ask again, how are you going to assure our rights to privacy? when we have been having these problems and we have so many fears because of Go Guardian and the fact that they can monitor everything that we see and we do.
That's a very fair question. I don't know enough about Go Guardian to give you a thorough answer, but if you would give Ms. Rooney your email address, I will have Dr. Zago look into it and address every concern that you've brought up and get you a response, and then we can take that response and make sure that it's posted or that it's available for everyone to see.
Thank you.
I don't want to give you the wrong information, so.
Thank you, Mr. Treebus.
Good evening all. I am here from school 18. Our kids are in grade 3. We understand there's a lot of problem in the school. You all are working very hard for it. But every morning we get up with a fear of an email that there's a mold in one more class. Teachers are falling sick. Kids are not keeping well. So I know you are doing all the best, but I don't know, every other day I think of changing a school for my child. This year is in 3rd grade. Next year my child is coming in kindergarten in the same school. How is this going to be treated and how long is the process going to take place? Because I don't know what else to talk here. I think most of the parents here are concerned with school 18 problem. Thank you. Just a request, sir, please, whatever, it's little faster, because you put an AC, you keep the doors open in the class. I don't think so that's going to work out on a long-term basis. Even our principal is unwell. The tile is falling. So kids are scared to enter the school. Mama, are we going to be safe, or are we going to be in our own classroom, or are we going to be moved to another classroom today again? The teachers have left at the starting of the year. My son didn't have a class teacher for the first month. So they have a substitute every day. Now they have got a teacher. Slowly and slowly they are getting the passwords and everything is getting on streamlined. But they have missed a lot of the studies when I compare it with other classes of the same grade. So I think that everyone is scared. Even the teachers at time, back of the mind, have that feeling, what's going to happen if they go to the same school with the same problem every day.
I certainly understand your position, ma'am. The circumstance at School 18,
Yes.
you keep saying, or everybody has been saying to us about it, it's not about cleaning. Unfortunately, that's a large part of it.
Yeah.
And that's why we're working on developing processes that when things get brought up, we get addressed them immediately. This has been an unprecedented year, but if you don't mind, I'm going to save everything. I'm going to make a closing statement after everything is done. So I want to give everybody an opportunity to say what they have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, hi, I'm also mother of school 18 kid. My concern is that environment safe for our kids, because every time I heard Miss McGreevy is sick because of that mold, and so many parents have same question: is that environment, mold in air, safe for kids to send school and they stay whole day in that school? Thank you.
Hello. I echo what others have said, and I'm also representing a concern. I'm a concerned, frustrated parent of a 50-year-old girl. Like I think others have said, I mean, really it's a frustration every day to send our kids to the school. Kids are, not even in their class for the last 2 months. They have been moved from media room to the, other rooms in the school, and they're watching movies every day. So I don't think this is best used, kids are able to get any instructional time. And I just feel that, this is a big loss for the kids, because next year my daughter is going to the middle school, and this 5th grade I feel it's like a pure waste. I just feel that I know we're getting all emails every day with updates of something is being done, but it's a temporary issue. I don't think that it's a permanent solution. And I feel either the school should be closed completely, move the kids to a different schools, because there are so many schools in the neighborhood, and you can create extra classes in other schools. You can transfer the teachers from this school, you can hire more teachers in other schools and you can move our kids. Because most of the kids are, I'm noticing that, I'm also speaking to the other parents and I'm seeing that a lot of kids are being moved. The parents are already transferring the kids because, kids are having problems, health issues, teachers are having health issues, and it doesn't look like what you're doing right now is a viable solution. I'm really sorry, but we are really frustrated with everything. And every day we are seeing the same email over and over again. So I think we need to really find a very robust solution. This temporary fix is not going to help. Like I said before, either close the school completely, knock down, and move the kids to a different schools. I think that's the only solution I see at this time. Thank you.
Brian Dellison, Island. It's nice to see some progress being made at School 18, though it took too long to get there. One can only hope that the coyotes aren't smart enough to walk around that new fence that has been installed. Just so everybody's clear, in a report from RAM Environmental dated February 1st, which is when the whole mess started, there were 8 specific recommendations made by RAM to deal with the mold problem in the building. I don't understand why 8 months later we're finally starting to implement those recommendations. So you had the answers all along to keeping our kids safe in the building mold-free back on February 1st. But here we are probably hundreds of thousands of dollars later and we still have a problem. You have a consultant, at least I believe he is still your consultant from Ahira, providing non-recommendations as recommendations, yet he's still on the job. When we met with Dr. Zega on October 3rd, when the latest 14 classes were closed and we toured the building, he himself said our consultant gave us bad advice, which is why we have T&M here tonight. Yet as we walked the building for 2 hours with the rep from T&M, and he gave recommendation after recommendation, nothing was even being written down, and none of the people from Buildings and Grounds that were driving the decisions behind the building were present to hear what he had to say. So do you see the problem with that? The T&M representative recommended tape lift sampling of the mold that was on the bulletin boards, not just air sampling, and getting those samples before those bulletin boards were removed. Was that done when you did this follow-up samples on October 7th?
Tape samples were done.
Okay.
And by the way, Mr. Detlefsen, I was taking notes on my phone. I wasn't writing them down.
Okay, good. I'm glad to hear that.
Mr. President, if I could just add one thing.
Please let Mr. Detlefsen finish.
No, I just want to add the fact, because Mr. Detlefsen made the thing, where was anybody from B&G? We were having a B&G meeting that night while Dr. Zega.
Yes, Dr. Zega explained that, but shouldn't you have been in the building where the problem was if there was going to be a meeting touring the building?
We didn't know. No, I'll defend it. We didn't know that T&M was coming to the building that night when we scheduled our B&G meeting.
Okay, fair enough. We were told on September 18th that comprehensive building-wide testing would be completed, including mold, carbon dioxide, asbestos, and other chemical and/or natural airborne allergens, irritants as appropriate to the school environment. When is that being done?
I don't know who committed to you that was all being done.
I have it in an email. I will share it with you if you'd like
Please
to see
do.
it. How much education has the staff received on mold identification and prevention? Don't you think at this point it warrants a thorough in-service by an environmental specialist to all the staff in the buildings? The testing performed on October 7th showed 2 new mold species, Stachybotrys and Chaetomium. These have never shown up in any prior mold tests. They are indicative of extreme indoor mold problems and can release dangerous mycotoxins when they break down. Has anybody looked into this, or is everybody just looking at the total mold counts and comparing them to the indoor and outdoor, which seems to be the precedence that everybody set? Stachybotrys, followed closely by Chaetomium, is the most dangerous mold to human health. In fact, some experts believe that once Stachybotrys has infiltrated a property, it can never be fully remediated. IAQ tests for carbon dioxide are being done after hours when the rooms are not filled with children, which is not providing accurate readings that would occur when the children are present. Why is that? Regarding the new heaters in the all-purpose room, I could not find them mentioned in any Buildings and Grounds board report. We were told in the spring that they were fine and that the temperature issue was from food services opening the doors for deliveries in the extreme cold temperatures. So I'm not clear on why they were replaced and at what cost they were replaced. I need to know when room 11 will be tested so I can make a decision on whether or not to find a new school for my child. She will not go back until the room that she is in is tested. She is suffering from emotional distress due to the lack of a normal school routine and missing socialization with her classmates. I was told the rooms would all be tested, and yet they have not been thoroughly tested. 2 of my family members have now suffered medical issues due to mold exposure. My daughter in the spring when she was in room 1 with Ms. Hayes, and my wife after she cleaned out the PTO closet prior to the 50,200 mold count being detected. People are sick due to the lack of action and negligence that's occurring. This should not have gone on this long. You're counting on the problems going away due to the cooler fall and winter weather now, but it will be back in the spring if things are not addressed effectively. You had the answers on February 1st, and here we are getting recommendation after recommendation, meeting with other consultants, and now we are finally just 8 months later starting to make necessary corrections to that building. I don't understand why you've exposed all of those teachers and students this long to the problem. You keep saying it's not a problem. It is a problem, and it's not being addressed. Finally, the lack of instruction continues, the lost instructional time, and now they're without a very effective leader in that building with Ms. McGreevy's absence. I just want to make it public that Ms. McGreevy has fought for our children. She has done what she needs to do to keep that building safe, and it's a loss to everybody not to have her there, and I just want to thank her for everything she's done.
My name is Tulia Mahajan. My son also goes to school 18. And it's my wife, Paula Mahajan. We're from Colonia.
We each get 5 minutes, right?
Doesn't work.
Hopefully we don't need to use all the minutes, but are you guys listening to all the parents? You guys were put in this position to be part of the community, fight for us. But if this is what's going to continue on every day, all of us parents will get together, and we will hold each one of you responsible. Enough is enough. You guys have known about this problem for so long. And this was not even worth putting on agenda as a top item. I mean, you guys should be ashamed of this. You guys are not replying back to parents. You guys are acting like you guys are a bunch of attorneys, or you guys are turning against us. We are tired of this. It's not fair to kids, it's not fair to teachers, it's not fair to anyone. You guys have known about this. There's been tests over and over. And if these contract companies are missing this, then we need to find somebody else. It's been going on for too long. I'm concerned about not just my kids, but everybody here. And I'm sure you guys don't want this to continue on. I'm sure you guys want these schools to be fixed. But you guys are hopefully hearing all these concerns. You guys need to step up this game. You guys need to really focus on these issues. And if this continues on, I assure you that we will bring everybody else. We've been talking to press, and there's going to be a lot more press sitting outside. So please listen to our concern. Please help us here. And if you guys need special expert to get in, we have the resources to get that.
So I know that you all are doing what your protocol states to do.
Excuse me 1 second. Peggy, will you reset the time, please?
Thank you. I know that you all are following the protocol that you have set out to do as far as what's been best practices, etc. I work in a healthcare environment, so I do know a lot about this. I am educated. I do understand the parents' concerns. I understand your issues that you're facing as dilemmas to try to be able to do all of our schools and make sure that they're all safe and healthy for teachers, parents that are walking in, our children, etc. But I have an important question for you. What do I tell my sons when they ask me that they can't go back into their classroom? I have a kindergartner and a second grader, and they don't understand when their drawings are thrown out or that their artwork is no longer that all those memories that they've created in the classrooms. What do I tell them? How do I explain it to them that their school has issues? I can't tell a kindergartner or a 5-year-old that, hey, your drawing is in the garbage because there's mold. They don't understand at that level. These are tiny humans who do not have voices to come up here and speak, to say that they love their school, that they don't want anything happening to their school. You all have the tools and the power to make the change.
We can keep talking and complaining and raising concerns and tirelessly get behind a rally to do something. But you all have the tools. You were put into these positions to protect the children in these schools. They don't have voices to do that. So we all have to come up here and be the adult and say what we need to say. But we shouldn't have to. This should be a known. It should be easy and effortless for you all to come up with a proactive plan, not only for School 18, for the school that the parent was speaking about. It should not be, oh, the consultant told me that maybe this is not going to happen again. It should not be that. It should be a proactive plan. That's why we have those in health systems. Proactive plans for disasters that occur. You cannot say that, oh, the patient is bleeding out. Don't worry about it. It's not going to happen. That's not how that works. I've been reading on the EPA website. There's an entire remediation plan, a recommendation plan with checklists that you could print for free and send it out to all of your people to go do the inspections, to do the maintenance. And one quote that I leave you with that I read, they said that if you take an ounce of prevention, you'll do away with a pound of mold. It's all about prevention. You do maintenance, you're good. You don't do any maintenance, you spend billions of dollars. Thank you.
Hi, Dana Grossberg. I have 2 children in School 18. My concern is for how the mold issues have been addressed in the past, specifically the testing that's been done. And it's twofold. The first part of it is that, and we've received a lot of emails that give us test results, and those emails state that there's no standards for judging what is and is not an acceptable quantity. They haven't been established, and that's also according to the CDC. Furthermore, results may vary depending on when and where the samples are taken. So that's the first part. The second part is that according to the tests that have been done in the past, they've said, okay, the consultant recommends that we can go back to school is safe, our kids can go back, yet mold has still been found after that. So I don't think that these tests are a reliable indicator that the school is in fact safe for kids to go there. Sorry, I'm nervous. We all know that mold needs moisture to grow. So I want to know what steps are being taken to find the source of the moisture and to maintain humidity levels under 50% in every classroom, not just the classrooms where the mold has been found so far, because chances are there is mold in other classrooms, it just hasn't been seen, because I don't think we can rely on the tests to tell us that there's no mold in that classroom. And how are you measuring your improvements in the future? Will there be visual inspections throughout? And how can we maintain that the humidity in every single classroom is going to be appropriate so that we don't have more mold? Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Dipesh Patel, and my son and daughter goes to Island Middle School. So I'm not just here as a concerned parent, but there is a lot of children there. There's a lot of parents here. They will come up and talk to you. The mold issue didn't start just this year. It started last year in December, from my understanding, and nothing was addressed until February. But Dr. Zega, from my understanding, knew about this. Okay, so it's not just 8 months. It took, since December, nothing, it's almost December. 2 months is December. It's 10 months, okay? So I know you've heard a lot about mold issue, this, that, and the other, and you have an SOP, which is okay, but you need to kill it from the root. If you don't get it from the root, it's not going to help. Okay, that's one thing. And I know it was addressed already that things have been thrown out of the classroom. It's understandable to an adult. My daughter is in kindergarten. Her stuffed animal, her blanket was thrown away. Favorite, she had her heart in it. When we asked the teacher, is when we found out that it was thrown away. So what do I tell her? One thing I would suggest, and I know it hasn't been said yet, instead of sitting in your office, how about you guys move your office to Island Middle School? Sit there for a year and then see what happens to you. I want to say my son and daughter are coming home coughing. When they leave home, they're fine. Now, the mold issue will not affect them right now. 30 years from now, 40 years from now, where is the board going to say, oh, you know, we said everything was fine? Where do I get a paper saying that right now you're saying fine? 30 years or 40 years from now, you're going to cover those bills. You need to do something. I pay taxes. These parents pay taxes. We need to do something. I'm not here, so I worked in the corporate world, so I know how it works. I know that there are SOPs and you need to follow rules and regulations, but this is not just a small issue. And from my understanding, it's not just Island School 18, it is middle school also now. So it's going to come up. Next is high school. We need to find a solution. And it's not going to go away. I'm sorry. It's not going to go away. And if it means that you need 200 parents here, 600 parents, there's 600 kids in that school. So there will be 600 parents sitting here. But I would love for you guys to take your seats, go to Island Middle School, or School 18, and sit there for a year, run the office from there, and then see what happens to you. It's kids. Their immune system is not built yet. This is not a joke. I'm sorry to say, this is not a joke. Both my son and daughter are having breathing problems. See? It's not. It's the environment. We need to fix it.
Excuse me, let this gentleman speak, please.
The one thing I want to say, there had an open house.
Excuse me, please give this gentleman his opportunity to speak.
There was an open house after the school was closed for almost a month. I went there. A group of parents went with us. We checked each room, and it looked fine. But when you pick up the carpet, there was dust. There was mold under. Yes, I was one of them that actually picked it up and left it open so other parents can see it. When you looked in the, and I understand that some of the ACs have been replaced there. When we looked in the AC filter, there was mold in there. Okay. Thank you. I know my time's up, but thank you.
Sir, I did want to ask you a question. You had mentioned a middle school, which.
School 18.
Okay, all right, okay, okay. Okay, all right, sure. Okay. In terms of what you've heard in terms of mold, you've only heard of 18s. You're referring to, all right, but with the dust from the construction. Right. Yeah, I know. I just want to make sure that there wasn't a suggestion that there was mold at Woodbridge Middle. If there is, we would look into that. I am familiar with the construction dust. Though. Right.
Hi, my friend came up here just a while back. So she had some questions regarding mold needing moisture to grow. So what are you doing to find the source? I was hoping for an answer, actually. So,
As I said in the very beginning, I'm going to make a closing statement. I'm going to try and address everybody's issues. I wanted to give everybody an opportunity to speak.
okay, I didn't.
That's okay.
I wasn't here
I
in the
just want to
beginning.
make sure everybody has their opportunity.
All right. It shouldn't become like a parent venting session. I was hoping for something from you, that's all. And how would you be measuring the improvement? Or is this something you'll be saying at the end?
I'm going to try and cover as much of this as I can.
Okay. If you could kind of address these issues too, that would be
He's got a
fantastic.
whole list I'm watching right here.
Sorry?
He's got a whole list. He's got a
I'm
list
making
of
I
various
think the list
issues
is
that
going to
we
grow
brought.
just a bit more.
I know it
so-
is.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
Good evening. John Obalski, Port Reading. I know you're going to make a statement on School 18. My statement, my comment, my question has nothing to do with that. Would you perhaps like to do that and then open it up at the end for me to ask my question? Or?
I'm going to make my statement and then I'm going to close the meeting.
Okay, so then I'll go. It has nothing to do with 18.
That's fine. I just want to give everybody an opportunity to speak tonight.
Yep. My question is this. I'm one of those who always look at my tax bill. The school portion of my tax bill went down. Not as much as we'd all like, but it did. Could you explain to us how that went down, why that went down? And is that something we could look forward to in the future? Or is that something that was just a one-shot deal?
I can't speak to whether it's going to reoccur. This was due to the fact that we got additional money from the state, and we allocated a third of that money to deal with environmental issues. We had allocated a third of that to deal with issues down the road, whatever they may be. And then we thought a third of that should go to tax relief because that's what the whole premise of it was to help out the taxpayer. So we wanted to make sure we allocated some. We knew we had issues going on with School 18 that needed to be addressed, and we wanted to make sure we had the resources to be able to address them. And we also wanted to make sure we had resources to address further issues down the line.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
David Pinkwitz, Island. I'll make this pretty quick and stay on topic. You know, I appreciate that the board president wants to make a statement at the end, but it would have been nice for these people that have been here to hear the statement before they had a chance to speak, because that way they could respond, they could interact. I realize it's public comment, and the board attorney will continually say it's public comment, and there's no need for the board to respond, and that may be true. But there is a need for the public to respond. There's a real problem here. These people are hurting. The kids are hurting. And to be honest, Mr. Treebwasser, you know, we've heard these speeches before. You were at the meetings back when there were the split sessions, back at the beginning of this problem. Obviously, there's still a problem, and that's a big problem. Whether it's the administration, the board who oversees the administration, or everyone. You know, the people deserve an opportunity to hear what you have to say and to respond to it. They'll have their chance next month or in the future, but it would have been nice for you to share your thoughts before they started. Thanks.
My name is Nicole, and I'm here on Woodbridge Middle School. My daughters go there. There's a situation with the bathrooms for the kids. From what I understand, the girls' room and the boys' room were changed today. The girls wait in line for 20, 25 minutes to go to the bathroom. One bathroom is really ridiculous for all those girls and all those boys. Today, when they changed bathrooms, the girls came home saying that the bathrooms smell like pee. That's unacceptable for the girls. I mean, my daughter has a bladder issue and she has to go to the bathroom, and she went to the nurse and said, "You don't have special privileges, you can't use my bathroom, go back in line." This is 20 minutes out of their classroom time, their lunch time. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. We'll make sure that that gets addressed. Is there anybody who has any other comments they'd like to make? Peg, will you set the clock for 5 minutes, please? Thank you.
You said on yourself?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Pinkowitz, I made a statement at the opening to give people an understanding of where we were at and what we were doing. I wanted to make a statement so that I could address everybody's concerns. If they would wish to talk to me, I usually stick around afterwards, as you well know. But anyway, what I really wanted to say to everybody is, first of all, there seem to be a lot of people that are challenging what we're doing. And we've had 4 different environmental companies, some that the board has paid for, some that the parents have paid for, some that the WTEA has paid for, and they all pretty much come up with the same information. They all tell us that the problem that we have is a cleaning issue. We have been examining and looking for what the water source is. We've had testing done in the plenum above the ceiling, between the roof and the ceiling, and haven't found a water source there. We found the fact, as Mr. Vitarak had brought up, about trees being cut down. One of the things we realize is the back of that area is very wet, gets very little sunlight. And for that area to dry out properly, it needs to be addressed. So therefore, that's why we took trees down, and that's why we added perforated pipe, and we're putting drainage in the back of the building. We recognize also that when you have a consulting company, that they may not address your issues as quickly as you'd like them to be done. The gentleman that we have currently who's doing our facilities, I believe that was Mr. Maris brought that up. He was concerned that that individual is not getting his certification, and I'm pretty positive, and I'll have Mr. Wolferman look into that, but I believe he's already completed the course. The gentleman we're looking at doing our environmental testing is also taking the facilities manager's course, which is offered at Rutgers, but we're going to get him additional testing so that he can operate the proper equipment to be able to test regularly for CO2, mold, and humidity levels. One of the ladies brought up she had a concern about the humidity in the room staying at 50%. I don't think that's a realistic ability, especially when the outside humidity is at 100%. We are required to keep unit ventilators on so that way we make sure that there's a proper airflow. The environmental specialist made a recommendation that we keep the air conditioners on and have the ventilators off to reduce the amount of moisture in the room. We feel that that was a mistake only because the only concern is not humidity. There's a concern, as Mr. Depleson brought up, about CO2. And we're not going to get the proper level of CO2 in a room based on the fact that if there's not enough CFM, which is amount of air that flows in and out of the area. The bit about the testing being done, that was done by POSHA, and they're the ones who scheduled it. I didn't schedule it. I'm not an expert on this stuff, and I don't claim to be. I never have, and I never will be. But I do find that a lot of people, and this is maybe the benefit or the detriment of Google, but we have a lot of people, and there are a lot of people that are very bright in our community, and I like to believe that they have only the best intentions, as is everyone that I'm aware is sitting up here. We are concerned about the children. We are concerned about the staff. Personally, I have a relative who works in School 18, and I worry about her every day. And I talk to her all the time, and I share the information with her, and she tells me that, you know what, everything is improving. I like what I see. I hear all of you telling me that you don't. I understand that Ms. McGreevy is a valued asset to that school, and we recognize that as well, and we wish her well, and we hope she gets back. Therefore, we took an individual who we felt was an outstanding candidate, who had extensive experience throughout the district, and will be able to give us the guidance and the structure that the school needs to be able to continue to provide a quality education for our students. There are times that the kids were moved out of their rooms, and it was not for safety issues, but it was for practicality. If you want the room thoroughly cleaned and properly cleaned, having students in the room at the time is not a beneficial thing. So therefore, the kids were moved out. Whether the vernacular or terminology used at the time was inappropriate, and they were told that they had to be moved for safety reasons, as opposed just for being moved so they could properly clean, I apologize for that. That is certainly, I know how charged this whole situation is, and I know how frustrating it is. I worked in the district for 17 years, and I'm aware of situations that have been going on in the district for years. And it is paramount to me that we address them and get them resolved. But all the people that we've spoken to told us that we are not going to eliminate mold completely. So let me be clear, I am not going to promise that, and I'm telling you it will never be eradicated completely. That school, if you look at it, is built in a very low area. There is moisture behind it, and there is always going to be moisture behind it. This has probably been one of the wettest and most humid spring, summer, and falls that we've had in, I don't remember when, in at least the 26 years or 30 years I've lived in Woodbridge. We are going to address it to the best of our ability. We are working with our janitorial providers to make sure that they do a proper and thorough job cleaning. And when they don't, we have put systems in place that our teachers, who we feel are valuable and have the ability to look at something and say, it's dirty, it's clean. If they think that there's mold in the room, I'm sorry I'm going over, I will be brief. If they think that there is mold in the room, they will fill out the paperwork, and within 48 hours, somebody will be there to remediate it, clean it, whatever it requires to do. The gentleman will come in and test it appropriately, and if it's a problem. Mr. Deffelson, you brought up a situation. I don't know that what you're saying is true or false. I can't speak to that, but I will certainly make sure that I ask our consultants. And if what you say is true, then we will develop a plan to address that. And if it's not true, then whatever site you're on may have been misleading. But I trust everybody here will understand that there is nobody who sits up here that doesn't care about the kids in our community, the parents, the staff, and the overall community as a whole. Education is important to us because there's not one person up here that's a board member that is getting compensated. We are up here because we do care. We are up here because it is important for us to try and do the best of our community and make it as good as it can possibly be. And I'm sorry if anybody feels differently about that, but I assure you, I personally have no hidden agenda. I benefit nothing by this. I appreciate every single person who comes up, sends me an email, or has a concern about something and wishes to share it. I do not have any animosity towards any of you. Although I may appear to be unapproachable, I trust you I am not. So I thank you all for coming out this evening, and hopefully we will work together to get this resolved. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
A motion?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Adjourn.